So I'm Stefan Hamm. I'm with Tyrol Equity since more or less a decade now, 11 years. And we are focusing with Tyrol Equity on classical mid-market companies in the range of 50 to 150 million turnover. We address the turnover side because for us it's not as important the equity stake we are doing in one deal, but we are focusing on the classical mid-market industrial companies in the DACH region, so German-speaking countries, including Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. And well, we are not a classical private equity fund. We see us as an industrial holding company, and the main sponsor is an industrial family, so kind of family office, industrial holding. That's our background, and doing that, as I said, since 10 years in Austria. Well, I mean, Austrian private equity market in general is supposed, and many people talk about it, that it's underdeveloped. If you compare it to GDP percentage of private equity investments done in Austria, one could say it is underdeveloped. It's less than 1% of the GDP going into that market. But I think this view on the market is a bit too short, because there are many players in the market in Austria which are not called private equity like ourselves, Tyrol Equity. We are not classical private equity. We are more industry holding, as I said. And there are many players in the market. So one could say, if you look from London or from Frankfurt, it's a bit a closed job. And it really has been in the last years. Many deals are done under Austrians and in between the Stiftung and other players in the market. But I see in the last, let's say, 5 years that it's opening up. It's opening up. More players are coming from Germany. More players are coming from London to do deals here. And I think this is the one side, the side of the money going into the market. The second side, where it's opening up, and as well last year we have seen that, is in the vision of the entrepreneurs. So a couple of years ago, no entrepreneur would sell his business in a succession case or other cases to a classical investment company, even if they come from or if they come from Germany or somewhere else. This is tend for me to change in the market. The market is more opening up. Entrepreneurs which founded their business 30 years ago, which are now in the age of 55, 60, are much more open to hand over the business into private equity hands, because they know it's a good hand. It's not anymore that the picture that private equity is the last exit you go for if you don't find anybody else, but it's seen as a mature business. We have heard that on the conference a couple of times already in the panels. It's a mature business, and this reflects as well to the Austrian markets. 2018, of course, the numbers didn't change so much. It's still a small market for private equity investments, but if we look at 19 and further on, I think the market really grows and will open up. There are discussions to have a governmental-backed funding. If you look at the discussions there to bring more money into it, to have a certain kind of governmental involvement in the market. And I think this is one side which leads to the right direction, to attract institutional investors to come here, to have their office here in Vienna or somewhere else in the Austrian market, and to be a player, a part of the market. What does not work, in my view, and it will not for the next coming years, that you try to address that market from a London-based office and just fly in and try to make a deal and from there. You have to be here in that market, like in all the other markets as well. If you are not based in London, you will never do business in London, and it's the same for me in Austria. But it's opening, it's growing, yeah. Yeah, I think you can very much compare Switzerland and Austria, not just size-wise, it's more or less the same size, but as well if you look at in the networks. If you want to do business in Switzerland, my opinion, we are addressing that region as well, you have to be there and you have to be in that network. With Germany, it's a complete different ballpark. It's 10 times bigger, seen just from the inhabitants. It's much more mature. There's a much bigger business area. And even if we are based in Austria, we have our office in Innsbruck in Tyrol, we see much more deals and potential clients coming from Germany, because the area is much bigger, and in terms of being open, the openness for institutional investors is much more mature than in Austria. So, of course, we have done 15 deals the last years, and 3 out of this is coming from Austria. So even having a very good network in Austria, it's not that the majority of deals are coming from that region. So differences are really there. Germany is much more mature, open, and Switzerland and Austria, I see the same. It's still a very closed job in a kind of way. Yeah, I mean, again, the downside on a kind of network-based business is that if you are in the network, of course, doing business is much more easy. And as I said, I think the biggest opportunities in terms of businesses which will be coming to the market is really the succession. I mean, we are talking in Europe. When I studied, we heard already from the professor, now is the big wave coming, succession. There are so many unsolved succession cases. And I think really this is something which coming now to the market, because these are entrepreneurs in his mid-50s or early 60s, which are not anymore like the former generations, that they only live for their business, but they want to have a certain kind of lifetime. They don't want to have that burden transferred to their sons or daughters. And I think this is one thing where we see a lot of deals. And of course, as well, I mean, the classical mid-market is very, very strong. We have really fantastic companies in Austria. And one issue as well is the international footprint. I think that the companies in Austria are more open nowadays to have institutional private money in their company as well, to help them getting that international footprint. This is the second source I see a lot of business coming from. Plus, of course, we have some big companies, industrial companies, which of course have to always address their portfolio, and carve-outs is something we have done as well in the past, and I think as well carve-outs are a very, very good area for new business for private equity.